So Chloe Brown of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Chloe, I found you on Instagram, Chloe's Guitar Spa. And it caught my attention because when I started doing it professionally 3 years ago, I was like, man, spa would be really kind of what I'm offering, right? And
Yeah.
so I was intrigued by your title, and then I started checking out your posts, and I liked your approach. I liked the way it was, get realigned with your guitar, and it had kind of it was a very different approach from the usual repair guys showing off. Check out this Les Paul that I had across the bench today, and I really like that. And I'm glad that when I reached out to you, you were like on board right away. And that was awesome. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I love the Guitar Spa name. I can't take full credit for it.
Uh,
I had a customer before I had really named it when it was just me. I was like, "Hey, I can fix your guitar. Come see me, my
sure.
name's Chloe."
Yeah.
And I had somebody say, "Well, yeah, my guitar really needs a spa day." And I was like, and a few weeks later, I kind of said, "You know what? I think I'm going to run with that." So,
Nice. It works.
yeah, I really like it. And the best is yet to come for some kind of campy marketing plans. I think I'm going to do some fun stuff with kind of, taking a guitar through a spa day,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
maybe putting it down like it's going to be, in for a massage with a towel on it, and kind of some goofy stuff. So that's to come. I'm excited to have fun with that.
Kind of like those Instagram videos I got hooked on recently where people are putting their dogs in spas and they're
Oh
like
yeah.
cucumbers on the eyes and
Mm-hmm.
meditative
Mm-hmm.
music and
Hey, there are so many people who baby their guitars at least as well as their dogs. So
well, that's true.
it's
Sad but
it's not
true.
like there's not a market for it. It's not even
Yeah.
a stretch.
That is very true. And man, I'm telling you, sometimes it goes, and you've probably found this too, it goes beyond spa treatment sometimes, and it almost turns into trauma ward.
Sure.
Just like a kid brought in, he's a kid that he's brought he's a bass player, local bass player, and his dream guitar was this Rickenbacker, and he found it on reverb.com. He's like, I want a Rickenbacker bass because Lemmy had one and all the
Mm-hmm.
coolest bass players had one. And he forked over some money for it, but it had been around the block. It was in early 70s and it had seen some action. So I spruced it
Sure.
up. Literally 8 months later, he calls me up and he's like, hey, can I bring it in for, really? Yeah, sure. I'm not going to say no. He brings it
Sure.
in and there's blood on it. And I'm like,
Oh
what the
wow.
hell? He's like, oh, I don't know. I cut my hand one night and I just kept playing. Yeah, but can you wash it off
Mm-hmm.
before you bring it to me?
Yeah, like that's I'm not getting paid enough for that.
That's right. StuMac
And
doesn't have hazmat suits.
Patrick, I don't know about you, but I feel like half of the customers who bring me a guitar with blood on it want it to stay. They don't even want me to clean it off. They're like, no, I earned that in battle and I want it forever.
And it's weird because you're right. There are some customers. It's like, you're looking over the guitar when they bring it in. You're like, do you want me to remove the inspection sticker and made in China
Mm-hmm.
decals? No, you can leave those on. Really? Why? Okay, I'll leave them on. Some people have the
Yep.
weirdest requests.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's
we've seen
everything
we've
you can
seen it
imagine.
all.
I always ask, if somebody brings me one that looks like it has like multiple years of dirt on it, I'm like, where can I clean it and where will you be mad at me if I clean it? And I would like to clean everywhere, every time.
Yeah,
But some of them are like, no, no, leave it on. I'm like, I have to clean your fretboard. Please let me clean your fretboard, if nothing else. Yeah.
absolutely. And then of course I saw on your Instagram that that's when the dental tools come out. You said you actually have a post where you're bragging about I have a set of dental
Yes.
tools. I was like, damn, maybe I should invest in some dental tools.
Oh my gosh. I was gonna bring him up one way or another. I'm dead serious. Get yourself a set of cheap dental tools. I use them on every project. I
Huh.
I I don't think I have one project where I don't get them out, and for some reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You're always digging out some gunk or fishing a little nut or a screw that fell into a pick hole, a pickup hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was telling my buddy the other day, I'm like, we were talking about what's your most valuable tool on your bench. And I said, you know what? I think the toothpick might be my most valuable tool. I swear I
Toothpicks
use
are great.
toothpicks yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yep.
universal. So Chloe, tell me how you got started. What sparked the idea? Or you're a player, obviously, bass
Sure.
and guitar.
Yeah.
You've got a great arsenal back there. I
Thank you.
see
Thank
a
you.
Fender bass and a Fender, maybe a Tele headstock sticking up there. What are those guitars?
Sure. So here I'll start from the back. The
Cool.
bass is a Fender Aerodyne bass.
Oh, made in
I
Japan,
love
huh?
love Japanese Fender product.
Oh,
Always the
absolutely.
best.
Absolutely.
It's one of my newer ones. I got it in 2020
Nice.
and
Was
love it.
that
It's
was that
like
during the pandemic? Like, you know
it
what? I'm gonna pick
was.
up the bass.
Yeah. Yeah. So it would have been made, I'm sure, in probably the previous year.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah, it was probably a few months in. Um, yeah, I had a Mustang bass, and I just missed having a full scale bass.
Yeah.
I missed like feeling the power of a full bass,
Yeah. Yeah.
when I play. And gosh, it's my like desert island bass. I mean, I it does everything I need it to do. So
Nice.
love
Nice.
it very much.
And beautiful construction on those. They're so cleanly made. No bells and whistles. They're just a really nice, simple, clean design. I really dig them.
Yeah, yeah. As somebody who worked in guitar quality control, which I'll get into since
Okay.
you're asking me how I started in this,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a dream instrument to inspect. Never any issues with those. So
And for the
always
price
always love
point,
them.
I've heard they're amazing guitars for the price point too. They're not overly expensive.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Most made in Japan product. If you're looking at like an ESP or an Ibanez,
Mm,
those are into the thousands, multiple thousands,
mm.
and I think I picked that up for under 1,000 when I got it. I don't know what prices have changed since then. I'm sure they haven't gone
Right.
down.
No.
We're not seeing that
No.
ever. But yeah. So let's see, what's the next one? Oh, the next one is my first guitar ever. I've had it since I was 16 years old, and it is how I got started because it had been passed down to me from a couple of different friends who had owned it. And when I got it, it was covered in like magic marker, kids just hanging out, probably up to no good, and just like, drawing whatever on it. Nothing pretty either. And I had a schoolmate who his dad owned like an auto body repair shop, and he was like doing custom paint jobs on cars, and he was like, I can paint your guitar for you too,
Oh,
but
cool.
you have to take it apart for me. And I was like, that sounds cool and reasonable, but I'd never taken apart a guitar before. I had never even really, I had barely played guitar. I was just getting started. I was a drummer for years before
Oh,
then.
wow.
And
I'm
so guitar
jealous.
was
I've always wanted to be a drummer.
I love drums. It's fun. I haven't fallen in love with the instrument like I have the guitar. I think guitar is like my true love, but I do love playing drums, and I still play today. Yeah, I didn't know anything about the instrument, and so I just got like an empty kind of like tackle box, with all the little compartments, and I just started putting things in and labeling and trying to remember. And of course, I didn't get the guitar back for a couple months in the midst of other projects and letting paint cure and all of that. And I remember when I went to reassemble it, I remember two things. One, I had parts left over, and it would take me years to figure out what those parts were and what they did.
Whoops.
And two, it played terribly.
Oh,
The
no.
action was a mile off of the fretboard, and
Oh, no.
I took it to my local shop, and I was like, I lived in a tiny town in Kansas, and had this one little guitar shop that this guy ran as a kind of a hobby more than anything. And guy's name is D.A. Rigby. Owe him so much to my early musical journey. And I was like, D.A., please help me. I don't know what to do. I can't play this guitar anymore. I tried putting it back together, and of course he just did it. He was so happy to help. But I was like, I need to learn what's going on here. I was
Cool.
fascinated that he just like turned a wrench for a few minutes and then it played better.
Nice.
So from there, I just started working on my own guitars, and then I had friends who had no interest in learning, and so I was naturally interested in it and just kind of started working on their guitars, and then that eventually led into me doing it professionally.
Cool.
Yeah. And then let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, so that guitar is a Strat actually, and it's actually not even a Squire. It's the brand that Fender sold in the 2000s in department stores, which was called Starcaster, not
Oh,
the
okay.
semi-hollow body that
Sure.
we think of a Starcaster being. Fender loves to double up their names. They've
Yeah.
got 5 things that are the Mustang. They've
Yeah.
got, they love to do that. But it's the Starcaster by Fender, but it's
I
a
remember
Strat.
Starcasters. Could you,
Yeah.
Chloe? I'm curious. Can we see the paint job on the Starcaster, if you don't mind? Is it a hassle?
Of course. So, no, not at all.
Okay.
Keep in mind, I was 16 and I loved punk.
Okay, that's cool. Who were your big influences when you're 16 and listening to punk?
So here we go.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool.
And then I have stickers all over the back of it, of course.
Wow.
But, the fun thing is I've continued to work on this guitar over the years, and I've done everything to it, and it plays like a dream, and it sounds
Awesome.
great too.
There you go.
So it's been a great project for me to learn. I've got a bone nut in it. I've had it
Nice.
flecked. I've got Wilkinson pickups in it.
Nice. Did
Yeah,
you
so
ever find out what the missing parts were? Now that you know what you're looking. Yeah.
sure, absolutely. So the parts that I forgot to put back in were the springs that go underneath the pickups that keep them lifted up. So when I put the pickups back in, they just fell. They didn't stay where they're supposed to. So of course, I did what any person would do. I just super glued them in place.
No. Wow. Yikes. Hey, whatever
Yeah.
gets it functioning, right?
Whatever gets it, like I said, I was a teenager and
Yeah.
I just had a fascination in figuring it out,
Absolutely.
and yeah. What was your other question about this guitar?
Oh, your punk influences. Who are your punk? Yeah.
Sure. I mean, gosh, I was such a Green Day fan when
I
I
knew you were
was.
going to say Green Day.
Yeah, I mean, Billy Joe Armstrong has played a Strat. That was his old one. It's beat up. It's got stickers all over it. So I think of him when I play this.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, gosh, I still love punk today. I listen to all kinds of bands.
Nice.
Yeah.
I recently I took a trip to Los Angeles and had a day to myself, and I drove out to Corona because
Okay.
I'm a giant Fender fan. And my first guitar was an '86 Japanese made in Japan Strat. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I still
Okay.
have it today. I love that guitar. It's my Black
That's awesome.
Beauty, I call her. And so I go to the Fender factory, huge building, and I finally found a parking spot in the parking lot. I'm like, my God, this factory is full. Walked up to the building, huge logo, took a selfie by the logo, walk up to the door, and a big sign, it says, no longer doing tours since COVID. We apologize. But I'm like, well, at least I've been here. It's like going to the
Sure.
Taj Mahal and seeing the outside and being okay with it. And so I'm walking away, and
Yeah.
this guy he comes out of the building, he's like, hey, can I help you? And I turn around, and it's like this dude wearing this Minor Threat t-shirt, and he's got like big gauges in his ears and a nose ring and punk rock hair. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm really bummed I couldn't take the tour, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, yeah. I said, what department do you work in? He said, I'm in wood sourcing. I was like, oh, fascinating. So we jabbered it
That's
up.
cool.
Yeah, so but the Minor Threat shirt, I'm like, oh, no one listens to Minor Threat anymore. Who knows Minor Threat? Talk about old school punk rock.
Very old school, and it's either like Gen X from that generation, or it's kind of like the new kids discovering, who influenced their favorite bands, kind
That's
of
right.
thing.
That's
You
right.
know,
Doing the
so you
deep
do get
dive.
you do get some kids kind of getting into that, and I think that there's such a the people who are really into punk, they're
Mhm.
really into it, and they love taking those deep dives. So
Yeah.
they're around,
Yeah.
but you don't see the t-shirts probably like you did 30 years ago.
And man, if I see another 15-year-old wearing a Hendrix t-shirt, I'm like, do you really know who Hendrix is? Can you really
Sure.
tell me about
Uh-huh.
Hendrix? Or did you just get that at Target?
Right. It's, rock and roll has become such a fashion
Yeah.
trend. And it's been that way for years. I guess
Sure.
it used to be people who were very much directly involved in it that wore that style. And now it's kind of like you see anybody. You see these like influencers wearing Iron Maiden t-shirts. And I'm like, girl, you don't listen to Iron Maiden.
Yeah, right? Do you even know what that is? Yeah.
Yeah. But whatever, teach their own.
Hey,
To
and
be
it's
honest,
advertising.
Iron Maiden had great album artwork, so can you blame them?
No, I don't blame him at all. Eddie, I have 3 Eddie T-shirts.
There you go.
Yeah. But and then that begs the question. I'm wondering so being a punk fan, do you go to live shows in Philly? How's the scene in Philly?
Oh gosh, so I've lived in Philly for about 2.5 years now,
Oh, okay.
and like I said, I grew up in like rural Kansas, basically. So this is a big change of scenery for me. I am loving having a real like thriving music scene, and yeah, I definitely love going to shows. I don't go to as many as I would like to. I feel like I'm getting older, and I don't get out like I used to.
Sure,
But
sure.
but I still do really enjoy it, whether it's like a basement house show or
Right.
at a like small, medium-sized venue. I mean, I've seen kind of the whole spectrum, everything from stadium shows to basement shows, everything in between, and
Awesome.
lots of great artists here. Yeah.
Yeah. And a little over 2 years isn't very long for a city like Philadelphia. I'm sure there's a
No,
lot to discover.
so much more to explore,
Yeah,
and yeah, I'm constantly discovering new bands, and starting my own business here has been a great way to do that because
absolutely.
of course now they come to me, and now I'm like, oh, what's your band, let me check you out, and I'll
There you go.
usually go to a show and kind of see what they're doing.
Cool.
So that's been really fun too.
And I have to ask, I interviewed Trying to Guitar from Instagram, and she was out of Los
Yeah.
Angeles, right? And the one thing and I didn't even think about this until she mentioned it, the trying to remain safe when you're allowing clients in a city like Los Angeles and
Hmm.
having just anybody drop their guitar off at your studio or your
Sure.
shop, or your apartment or your house. How are you finding that in Philadelphia? Did you do this before you moved to Philly, or did you start doing it when you moved to Philly?
As far as marketing myself to people
Yeah.
I did not know, I
Okay.
suppose it's been just here in Philly, but even before this, in previous towns I lived in, I used to, flip some guitars. I'd find something in really rough shape, fix it
Hmm.
up, resell it. So
Smart.
I've always had some sort of interaction where I'm meeting up with somebody,
Hmm.
and yeah, you just have to be careful.
But
I've had great luck, and
hmm.
I tend to, if I can, do a little bit of digging on the person.
Okay.
A lot
Yeah.
of people, just like find me through Instagram, and
Hmm.
that is a great opportunity for me to see, what they're about. And
Right.
also, I would say probably one of my biggest, like I do market to people I don't know, but I get a lot of customers through word of mouth, and
Oh, there
that's
you go.
always great. That's what I want my main marketing to be, is just one person plays in a band and they have a friend who plays in another band, and they're like, I got my guitar worked on at Chloe's Guitar Spa, you should too.
Cool.
Um,
Cool. And so then prices, are they discussed over the phone, or if it's a lengthy consultation, even though if it is word of mouth that this person knows this person, how
sure.
do you handle the initial consultation? Because I did notice that, and this is something that I almost want to steal from you, free consultations, it says. And that's on one of your recent posts. What's a guitar setup? I think it was, or fix your guitar at Chloe's
Hmm.
Guitar Spot. Free consultations is something that I don't know how many customers are like, how about if I just drop by? Because I do it out of my house. This is my
Hmm.
house. And how about if I just stop by and you take a look at it? And a few people have been like, okay, I just wanted you to look at it and tell me what it was. And then I'm not gonna. How am I supposed to charge you for that? You know.
Yeah.
So how do you set up some sort of meeting? Like you're like, okay, you vetted them online, you feel comfortable enough. Probably talk to them on the phone first.
Hmm.
And what if they want to bring a guitar by? Is it at your house?
Yeah, so my setup is actually at my house. I don't have a separate working place, and I enjoy that. I think it's worth
Yeah.
the cons.
Yeah.
I enjoy the flexibility of my schedule. I can take breaks whenever I need to,
True.
and yeah, that's very valuable to me. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that for me, I want the guitar to be in my hands before I tell them what something's going to cost. A lot of the time, I mean, if it's a standard setup, I know what that costs. If it's I need to replace one humbucker with another, I know what that is. But I get a lot of customers who are not guitar nerds,
Mm-hmm.
and I love that.
Yeah.
I want to be their guitar nerd,
Yeah.
and do that part for them and get them back to making art. And a lot of the time they don't know what to tell me. They don't
Mm-hmm.
know what is actually wrong. They're just like, it doesn't play right. Please help. And they're like, what will it cost? Well, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I need to get my hands on it. I need to take a look. And I tell them, 90% of the time I can look at it for 60 seconds and I can tell you what's wrong with it, what it needs, and approximately how much it's going to cost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's great that
Mm-hmm.
we can have that interaction and just get that out of the way really quickly. The last thing I want to do is set up poor expectations and shoot somebody a price that's either too high and scares them or
Right.
too low and then they're angry because the price went up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoy getting the guitar in my hands as soon as I can in the consultation
Mm-hmm.
process. And I guess I've just had a really good turnover rate. I've had really
Awesome.
good luck with turning those consultations into sales. I think if that ever became a problem for me, I would change my strategy. But if it's not broke, I'm not going to fix it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes me go back to, the name, Chloe's Guitar Spot. And my business is Your Guitar Mechanic is the
Sure.
name. Yeah. And it makes
Similar.
sense. The more I started doing it under this name, the more I started realizing, yeah, it is like a car mechanic because you take your car in and then you get the phone call. You won't believe what I know you wanted a standard setup. This and this and
Hmm.
that are wrong too. And I don't know how many times that happens in our business, right? You give them
All
a
the time.
yeah, and but the beauty of it is that I'm finding 99.9% of the time they go, yeah, do whatever you need to do, Patrick. Just whatever makes that problem go away, and you know, as long as you're up front with them, like, look, dude. Once I opened up the guts, it was like, what's going on back here, et cetera, et cetera. I can correct this for you, blah blah blah. Knock on wood.
Absolutely.
Knock on wood. They trust us, and
Yeah, yeah,
that's a big deal.
absolutely. Once again, it's great when I find somebody through Instagram and we're kind of chatting through there because just a few days ago, I actually sent a whole video to a client through there because we were trying to just tighten their output jack, but they had a really weird Dan Electro kind of hybrid acoustic electric, and it's the output jack on it. It's kind of an acoustic one, but it didn't come with the one that I received in that guitar is not the one that is original to it, and I can
Hmm.
tell that because there's literally no way for me to tighten the jack. It's kind of just sitting in there by friction, and it took me a while to figure out there was no place that I could even fit a nut to retighten it, and
Uh,
I wasn't able to identify that immediately in the consultation because I wasn't able
uh-huh.
to get in there, right?
Right,
And
right,
so I just, very like clearly showed them, I'm like, listen, you don't have to take my word for it. You can
right.
see it right here. It's
Yeah,
not going to work.
yeah.
Please, if you have the budget, let me order an entire replacement output jack, one that's going to be appropriate for the guitar. It's going to
Hmm.
stay in there and get you back up and running. And they
Yeah.
said, absolutely, whatever I need to do. This guitar is my baby. Once again, people, for the most part, enjoy pampering their instruments.
Yeah.
So, as long as you're explaining and you're being forthcoming, I think a lot of the time they're going to say, yeah, absolutely, do whatever you got to do.
Cool, cool. So then, Chloe, okay, so you took a guitar apart piece by piece, had it repainted, had it fixed, put it back together again, and
Yes.
did that spark the, man, I think I can do this?
It definitely sparked a bug to really wanting to do it.
Mhm.
Whether or not I believed I could at that point, having the extra parts left over, that's a little different. But it began me having this just almost romantic fascination with the instrument. I was like, something about the mechanical nature of it just really is so intriguing, so fun for me. I love a good puzzle, and I think that just got me into working on them more and more, acquiring more guitars. That certainly helps. And then
Yeah.
you acquire another guitar, and I was in college by this point. The guitars that you can afford buying used from somebody, they're also not always in great shape.
Right.
You're kind of tweaking those and seeing what's going on. And I didn't have leftover parts this time. Good.
Yeah.
But I think the real turning point to me making a career out of it was when I got hired at Sweetwater, and that was back in 2016. I had recently got off the road touring as a drummer for a little bit, and I worked there as a sales engineer originally in the sales department. I moved up there. I lived in Fort Wayne for about 4 years. And
Okay.
for the first couple of years, I worked in the sales team, and it was great in many ways in terms of what it taught me, but it was not for me. I didn't like doing an over-the-phone sales job. I didn't like
Right.
being in front of a screen all day. I wanted to work with my hands.
Yeah.
And I wanted to feel like I had made something or made it better, been
Right.
productive in a very tangible, you can touch it sense.
Sure.
That's what gets me up in the morning, and that's what motivates me. So I asked if I could transfer to a different department, and I wanted to work in the guitar gallery. So I started working in the guitar gallery in probably 2018 and worked there into the middle of 2020. And during that time, I became the training coordinator for the guitar gallery.
Very cool.
For those listening who doesn't know what the guitar gallery is, it's essentially it's two things. It's one, when you go on the website, you don't just look at a generic photo of the guitar. You look at different serial numbers so you can determine which one you like in terms of the finish.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of a huge revolution for buying a guitar online.
Yeah.
Is getting to see your actual guitar.
Right.
And so they photograph 10 photos approximately of every single guitar that's over $300 when I was working there.
And I know that, and I was just telling a client the other day because I bought a Taylor 714 off of Sweetwater,
Beautiful.
and I had 5 to choose from, and I sat there just, oh, the grain on this one, and gosh, but this one, and Sweetwater actually weighs each guitar too.
Yes.
You have the weight, you have the grain, you have photos of back, front, sides, and no one else does that online but Sweetwater, and I'm surprised at how the guitar market is merging online, more and more online, and people are getting more comfortable about buying a guitar sight unseen online, yet you don't get that choice from any other Chicago Music Exchange, guitarcenter.com, all of the other. Yeah, Sweetwater is the only one, and I really appreciate that. And then the free bag of candy is awesome.
Of course, everyone loves the candy. Yeah, I have personally weighed thousands of guitars. I mean, I think I was weighing probably 600 or 700 guitars a week at one point.
And that's the gallery, the guitar gallery.
The guitar gallery does, so they do the photography, they weigh them all, but they also do what's called a 55-point inspection there. And
That's
it's
right.
essentially this extra layer of quality control that they are in charge of, that goes not necessarily above, but it keeps in check what the manufacturer is, trying to guarantee when they send in the guitar. And I worked there during probably the most pivotal time for that department, and I would say one of the most pivotal times for the company in general, because we kind of moved from a model where we just said, hopefully this guitar is good enough, hopefully it's what you're wanting, and we would pay the manufacturer each time we sent a guitar back. Now that starts to become a problem when you start to have brands who are consistently sending you guitars that are objectively not up to par. Guitars with big chips in the finish, or major issues with the way the neck was set, or the way the frets are. Things that a customer shouldn't have to deal with a brand new guitar out of the box.
Right.
I was on a really small team to develop what we called internally the inspection guidance matrix. And if you look at any YouTube content or just social media content for Sweetwater and you see them in the guitar gallery, you'll see the booths that they have set up. And they have these inspection booths where all the techs are at. And I was the one who designed those booths.
Cool.
All of the tools that you see, the final selection for each tool that each tech has, I was kind of the one putting that together, and also putting together all of the material that you see on the wall that they use to essentially determine what standards they are upholding. And that inspection guidance matrix would tell you cosmetics to look for, and playability and electronics, and just overall, what the 55 points really broke down to be.
Right.
And we developed more stringent sorts of standards for a more expensive guitar,
Sure.
and less stringent for a less expensive guitar, because that just makes sense. And we spent months and months on this because it was incredibly important, because it was the catalyst to asking for the script to be flipped, which is now when we send a guitar back, we're going to ask the manufacturer to send us money.
Right.
And a retailer had never, ever, ever held the entire guitar industry accountable like that.
Wow.
And this happened in 2019. You mentioned getting to go to the Corona factory. That was a huge thing for me. I went to the Corona factory and toured the Fender US factory as kind of a an R&D move to figure out, well, okay, what standards are being presented in the QC of the largest stringed instrument manufacturer in the world.
Sure.
What are they doing to ensure? What's their inspection look like, right? And I will never forget, this was one of the kind of craziest moments for me in my music industry career. I toured the facility all day, and I was taking notes about what I liked, what I didn't like. And I sat down with all of the execs who were at the factory that day at their big, boardroom table. And they said, okay, what can we do to make it better? And to be asked that, as, me being somebody who just, I have imposter syndrome just like a lot of us do. I'm still thinking about that 16-year-old kid who couldn't get the springs back in their pickups, and had
Right.
and I'm like, you're asking me? You're Fender. And that was a really incredible thing to be able to kind of sit through. And I just got so steeped in what a guitar should be. And I really enjoyed those couple years working in the guitar gallery and getting to. I was training at one point. Our team was about 80, so I was training about 80 guitar techs on how to live by that inspection guidance matrix and put out a great guitar every time for the customers. So.
Well, then I have a QC question for you, Chloe.
Okay.
And this is a Sweetwater guitar.
Okay.
And I'm a huge D'Angelico fan.
Yeah.
Because
great.
I'm a jazz player, and I've got an Excel that I just have loved for years. So they had some B stocks on Black Friday, and they were going, there's a little pull down menu of different price levels of the B stock, like really bad off for cheaper.
Okay.
So I ordered 2 of these B stocks. I got a black one and a pink one, and I'm going to flip them on Facebook Marketplace, and I got one for myself. Because it's just a beautiful, unique guitar and sounds phenomenal. The pickup matrix on this is amazing. But my question is, when I got them, they don't specify why they were B stock. So I had to find out by, the guitar tech, put the guitar tech beanie on and take a look at it. And one of them was missing a truss rod cover screw. That was it. And then the other one, I still to this day don't even know why it's a B stock guitar. But when did it become a B stock, and when does it look, dude, this is unsellable. I mean, and what really disappointed me about D'Angelico, their B stock list on this make and model was about 20 different guitars. And I'm like, man, that freighter must have ran aground, and then they just kicked the guitars off and sent them to Terre Haute or Fort Wayne. But what how bad does it have to be before it gets sent back to the factory?
That's a great question. Now, of course, I haven't worked there since 2020, so I don't know what policies may have changed and what may have stayed the same. But I can tell you when I was there, we essentially had different agreements with each and every guitar vendor. Okay. Some guitar manufacturers did not allow us to sell anything as a B stock, right? Because
and who would that be? Can you name names?
off the top of my head, I can't remember anymore who was and wasn't allowing it.
Okay,
But a lot of
multi-thousand-dollar brands, probably, right?
Sure, yeah, there are some who are, very proud of it, but it wasn't always just the expensive brands, you'd be surprised. I think that they all just had different policies because, once again, we got to the point where we were going to charge them, so it wasn't going to be hey, we'll take less money for this. It's like, we will take less money. We'll take a hit, but you got to take a hit too. Wow. And some brands didn't want to do it. Right, and some brands were so great about getting on board with the extra level QC, and others were like, I can't believe you're doing this. This goes against our heritage as a brand, or how we do things. Like you're just looking at it through a different lens than we are, and respect to them still too. Like there is some truth to that, especially when it comes to cosmetics. Right, there are some. For instance, if you think about like Gibson's factory and the nature of it, when it comes to cosmetics, two things I remember. Their paint area and finishing area was located in the exact center of that old factory, and
that's odd.
It's not in the best place to avoid contamination, right?
Okay, yeah.
So their paint booths were contaminated with sawdust and particles and all kinds of stuff. And you could find that in the finish if you looked hard enough on a lot of guitars.
Interesting.
And also buffing and finishing was like specifically buffing was like the first job that you get when you go to work at the Gibson factory. So getting little scratches on guitars from Gibson, especially with a nitro finish, it's softer. Right. So it's like you are comparing apples to oranges, especially with something like nitro finish versus a poly finish, right? Because they just do scratchies or they buff differently. It is different, and we tried to take that into account as much as we could, but it's not perfect. So anyway, there was a lot of frustration on who would do B stocks, who would be taking things back, who wouldn't. But I assume that's all pretty well settled by now. This was about 6 years ago. So but yeah, essentially there are certain brands who would allow B stocks to happen, and they just be okay with that happening as the QC process went through if they found something. And there were certain things that obviously were B stockable and other things that were not. And cosmetics are always usually going to be like potential for B stock. Playability, though, that's kind of like we're probably going to send the instrument back regardless.
And I'm starting to think about how I really appreciate lately that social media seems to be driving companies to do better too. You see guys like Philip McKnight on Know Your Gear, and Rhett Shull. Sweetwater sends Rhett Shull guitars all the time, and he's honest. He's brutally honest. He's like, look, I'm going to compare these 5 different Strat style guitars from 5 different companies. And suddenly you'll see a video a couple months later, and it's like, you know what? They've improved this, and I think they're listening. And guys like Philip McKnight on Know Your Gear, he's like, wow. And I remember just a couple months ago, I said this and that, and suddenly all the frets are level, and I don't have to, hammer down frets or polish the edges. It feels nice and smooth, stuff like this. So I think I like that social media. They're actually guitar companies, and it might be a reflection on how pricey guitars are starting to get. And it's like, look, the return industry is so laden with junk and waste that if we don't get it right out the door, and you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. So I'm sure Sweetwater saw a huge improvement once they turned that around, like you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if this is too insider baseball, but I don't know. It was years ago. It's funny that you mentioned Philip McKnight because I absolutely know this to be a fact. There was a video that he released in, I want to say it was late 2018, that dealt with an order that he got from Sweetwater for a guitar. and Chuck Surak, president of Sweetwater. I don't know what his position is anymore. I know he like sold the company a few years back, but is the founder of Sweetwater.
Yeah.
He caught wind of it and he mandated that. So, and I'll back up and I'll say, obviously in Sweetwater at any given time there are guitars that we have inspected and they're ready to go out the door, and there are guitars that have not yet been inspected. They arrived recently and they have to go through the process. And we were already very backed up. We had a large backlog of guitars. We were headed into the holiday season and people were ready to buy guitars, and you know, the purchasing department had purchased. And so we're working. Chuck Surak mandated to the guitar gallery that we re-inspect every guitar that had already been through inspection.
Wow.
And it was, I can't remember how many thousands of guitars it was, but we were working overtime, weekends, I mean, all of it to try to catch back up on that. So yeah, if you think sometimes that it doesn't matter, it sure does, because it literally affected our lives for months. And I do think, you know, I wasn't happy about it at the time, but I do think you're right. You know, I don't want guitar manufacturers to make junk that ends up, you know, with the headstocks cut off and going to a landfill. You know, our wood is precious, and deforestation is a huge issue, and we need to be green as possible. You know, there are enough guitars in the world. As much as I hate to say it, I don't need another one. Yeah, but I want them, but I want to have a clean conscience about it when I get one.
Absolutely.
And I want all the makers of guitars, big or small, to be good stewards of the earth and to, you know, take care of what we have, because we're not getting any more. So
wow, that's a really good point. When you toured it sounds like you toured the Gibson factory as well.
I didn't actually. You
just happened to know about it.
I got to know about it because we had other people who had we had a Gibson liaison actually on staff at all time, who was kind of like working at Sweetwater but employed by Gibson, and he had gone and done a lot of inspection and kind of reported back to us. So I've toured the Fender US factory as well as their distribution center in San Bernardino. And I've also, funny you brought up D'Angelico, they have a distribution center in QC Place in Indianapolis. So I toured it as well. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. And that was my next question, is what other factories do you know, because when I'm walking away from the Fender building, that guy was like, oh, you know, Taylor, if you go down to San Diego, how much time do you have? Drive down to San Diego and take a tour of the Taylor factory. They do tours all the time. I was like, it's not the same, but okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And speaking of deforestation, I mean, Taylor, they have whole videos on their website.
They're the best.
Absolutely.
The best with
it sounds like they really take that sourcing into consideration, and that's appreciated for sure.
Yeah. The only other factory that I've toured is a really small maker. Actually, to get back to my
yes, natural segue.
Yeah. So
that's the telly body I was seeing.
Sure. So this guitar is actually made by a small company. After I moved away from Fort Wayne, and I
can't wait to hear why you left that job.
Okay. I'll talk about it a little bit. I wanted to be, part of the reason was I wanted to be closer to friends and family.
Okay.
And so I moved back to a small town called Joplin, Missouri, and there's a music store there that I had respected for a lot of years called Ernie Williamson Music, and they're actually a small chain in kind of the Missouri, Kansas area. Nowadays they have several stores, but one of their biggest ones was in Joplin, and I just worked at that store doing a lot of different jobs. Most jobs that could be done in a music store I did when I was there. But just in one town over, there's a little maker called MJT. I don't know if you've heard of MJT Guitars.
No.
They do a lot of, they started as like a vintage refinisher. They really specialize in their nitro finishes.
Nice.
And they do a lot of like Fender recreations, and they've started to get more and more original with it.
It looks like MJT Aged Guitars.
Exactly.
MJTAgedfinishes.com.
So when I toured the Fender factory, I did get to spend some time in the custom shop and kind of watch them relic guitars, you know,
Cool.
and age guitars.
In the
And
custom,
that's a
that's
very
nice.
fun process.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like a small Midwest Fender custom shop for half the price. And I do really like them. Basically, they needed some help with their final setup and assembly process.
Oh,
And
cool.
they hired me as kind of a contract worker to do some classes because that's exactly what I was just doing at Sweetwater. So I just taught their team about, you know, doing final setup and assembly on guitars and kind of a QC process. And they asked, well, how much do you want to get paid? And I had a job already. I
Yeah.
was like, how would you feel about paying me in my own custom guitar? So I never thought that I would get a guitar built for me from the ground up,
Oh,
but
wow.
I did get that, and this is the guitar.
Oh, look at that.
So it's a thin line telly, and
Yeah, it's
you know, I got to
beautiful.
pick the neck profile. It's like a V neck profile. Vintage kind of Clouson tuners. Are they actual Clousons? I can't remember. I think so.
Man,
But
fantastic.
pearloid inlays.
Yeah.
Yeah, and these are,
Oh, you went
oh
with the
gosh,
triple barrel old school telly.
sure, yeah.
How do you feel about intonating that? I'm sure you got it
Um,
down to a science, but geez, when I see customers come in at the three barrel, I'm like, ah, crap. They're not gonna have.
so I did just want I just wanted the vibes of like the
Sure,
vintage, you know, recreation of
it's
it all.
beautiful.
I yeah, you know, it's close enough for rock and roll, right?
Absolutely. There you go. That's
That's I
right.
think that's the only answer you can really
A
give.
few cents, negative or positive, it doesn't. It's gonna make a good chord.
I don't need like I'm not a super technical player, you know.
Oh, okay.
I don't need to have like the lowest action possible. If I wanted that, I wouldn't. This wouldn't be my guitar. You know, I'd have like I was saying earlier, like something made in Japan, like an ESP or an Ibanez or
There
something
you
like
go.
that. You
Yeah,
know, something more modern that has, you know, that's been built for performance. This is built for vibes.
absolutely.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
100%. Um,
that is a sweet guitar. No other
yeah,
guitar like this one. This is my
no other
guitar.
guitar like
Yeah.
this one. Porter pickups, if you don't know Porter
Oh,
pickups,
sure,
they're
Porter. Oh,
great.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
awesome. Good choice.
Flame maple top, flame maple neck, and then
Oh, it's a
the
nice
body.
fat. It does it have the belly bump.
Nope,
That
it's
let
fully
me.
flat.
Okay, okay, cool. Old Telly style. Yeah.
And pine body.
String through body.
Yeah. String through body. Yep.
Awesome.
And
Wow.
I got what they call their closet clean, meaning I didn't want them to wear it down at all, but they spray the nitro so thin. This is kind of the cool part. They spray the nitro so thin in such a way that it actually ages with you much
Nice.
quicker than a normal guitar. So I don't know if I can catch it in the light, but there is some checking on it already.
Oh, sweet.
I don't know.
Dude, yeah,
I don't know if you'll be able to
I
see
love
it,
that
but
binding
there,
on there. That's awesome.
yeah. So it took about 9 months or so for them to build it, and yeah, I was all wrapped up with working with them at that point. But it was a great experience. I
Absolutely.
love that I have one of one. So
And I'm on their website now, and they do a lot of recreations of just bodies. And I see
sure,
like the Hendrix Monterey Pop Festival Strat body. They've got a Brad Paisley body on here. They've got the Eric Johnson Strat with the F hole body.
yeah.
Interesting website. But it
So
doesn't
it's
look like finished guitars though. It just looks like, oh wait, complete MJ. Here we go. Full
there you
MJ.
go.
Oh, and they sell kits too. That's cool.
So
Nice.
they got their start not as a guitar builder, but just as guitar refinishers. And so they would take guitars from clients and refinish them, and then they, you know, started sourcing their own. But they still weren't making the bodies or the necks. And they were finally ready to start that process of
Mm,
making their own bodies, making their own necks when they came to me. And that was kind of like they were becoming a guitar maker. And so
nice.
that's why they kind of needed somebody to teach them how to do that final setup and assembly portion of it because they hadn't had a lot of experience with it yet.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
that guitar actually is the first complete guitar with one of their own custom bodies.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, so
So it's kind of
before
a
that they were
proof of concept. We can do this actually.
exactly. Yeah, they
Yeah.
got the tooling to be able to do it, and I kind of gave them a tall task. I was like, "Hey, I want a flame maple top. It's nice and book matched." And I didn't give them the easiest telly to make, right? So I guess I believed in them.
Dude, that is awesome. So then you're in Joplin,
Hmm.
and you just left Sweetwater. You're in Joplin working at a music store,
Yes.
doing all sorts of tasks, not just guitar related now. It's like trumpets and, guitars and cellos. When did you decide, what took you to Philadelphia?
Sure. I think that it was, I mean, there were a lot of reasons. First of all, career wise, I had left that job and gone to work for like a work from home situation for a company called the Music People. They're the company that makes on stage stands.
Oh, yeah, I have an on-stage stand.
Yeah, everybody
Okay.
knows on stage. They're
Yeah,
like the biggest music accessory brand in the world. And
sure.
so I started working for them. And, once again, it did put me back in front of a screen, which I didn't love, but it
Right.
gave me a lot of flexibility working from home. I'm like, I can live anywhere now.
There you go.
And it was time for a change of scenery. I had had a lot of big life changes and wanted a place that was more urban than I'd ever lived, and just a very different vibe. So I moved to Philly in summer of 2023, and I had a friend here who had moved from Kansas.
Oh,
About a decade ago or
cool.
more, and they really loved it out here. So they were kind of the ones who pushed me to Philly specifically. I was actually thinking I was going to move to the West Coast because, that's where all the guitar brands are.
Right.
That was just kind of like easy choice. Like I've got to get to California or something somehow. But
Yeah.
I had a steady, good job, and I had a connection here as a start of a support system because I was moving
Cool.
out here by myself. So
And in a big city like Philly, a support system from nothing would be super important, I'm sure.
exactly, yeah, yeah.
And that's where you
Small
are
town
today,
girl, lonely
2023
world.
to now. I've got a list of questions, Chloe, and I
Okay,
and I created one for when I talk to players, and I created one for when I talk to makers, and I created one for techs. And it's the tech ones that I love creating the most because it's like,
sure.
man, we're so isolated sometimes that to hear stories from other techs is refreshing because it's like validation. Like, yeah, same stuff. Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So the 10 questions are as follows, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do
Okay.
it.
What's the wildest repair that you've ever, or modification that you've ever had to
Okay.
deal with?
Gosh, there's I really feel like I haven't had anything that's been just so out of this world crazy, but also maybe I can't see the forest for the trees anymore. I think to, somebody who doesn't do this,
Uh-huh.
they think all kinds of stuff that I do is crazy. A recent one that was pretty challenging for me was I had this person bring me a 1970s classical, having trouble remembering the brand off the top of my head, but it was made in Brazil. And it was a nice classical at one time, and it had been sitting in this person's closet. It was like their uncle's guitar, and it had been sitting in their closet for decades. And kind of the interesting twist is they had brought it into a repair shop before, and an actual like music store shop. Like I think the place that most people trust the most, as opposed to us just doing it out of our houses. We really have to like sell ourselves to be
That's
like,
right.
hey, we have the background, we have the pedigree, we know what we're doing.
Right.
People walk into a shop and they assume that already.
Right.
So this
And that's not
person,
always the case. The people that are in the shop are, I just fixed a trumpet, let me fix your Les Paul. You know what I mean?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, jack of all trades, master of none is
that's
sometimes
right.
what you get in there. Hopefully not. I mean, I've met some great techs that are
Yeah.
working in some mom and pop hole in the wall in the middle
Hmm.
of you wouldn't even know, and
Yeah.
they're just so good at figuring it out.
Hmm.
And so no shade to those people,
Right.
but it
Right.
is it is hit or miss, right? You
That's
can't
right.
just assume because you're going to a good store that they're going to
Hmm.
have a good repair team as well. So yeah, they brought it into somebody, and it had a big split in the seam. So it was on the treble side, lower bout, and it was just completely coming apart, and it was starting to spread all the way to kind of the butt of the guitar. And the person who, and there was some material missing. I'm not sure. I think it took a fall at one point, right? And the person who repaired it actually took some epoxy and used that to kind of fill in the gap, which is certainly not what I would have done. I'm just going to say
diplomatic
that.
way of saying it, yeah.
And guess what? The fix did not hold. It was completely apart again when I received it. And additionally, so that's what the customer brought to my attention. But I also noticed during my free consultation that the fretboard was actually coming up off of the neck as well. And so I had to do a fretboard reinstallation, and it was the first time I had to like steam off a fretboard, iron off of a fretboard essentially, and then do that repair as well in a way that was going to be time efficient, and I didn't really want to try to undo all of the epoxy, but I just wanted to fix what they'd missed, right? And so just making a custom support for that underneath that area, and kind of redoing that. That was a pretty broken guitar. I think I had to replace the nut on it as well.
Okay.
And like I said, it hadn't been played in decades, so I didn't even know if we were going to get a playable guitar at the end of all that.
Wow.
I think there were quite a few frets that were lifting as well, so there was a lot of fret gluing. It was a big project, and I probably had it for a month, and I got into some light refinishing as well because it was a gloss finish across that fretboard, and I wanted to restore that.
Nice.
And so I got some touch-up markers from StuMac and
there you go.
Some micro mesh and made it happen.
Yeah. Oh, we gotta love StuMac. They have half of my money.
Yes.
And it's interesting. And that was a nylon string classical guitar.
It was.
And you're lucky that the neck wasn't warped because they don't have truss rods. And man, I'd hate to run into that issue. That would take months of getting that back into shape.
Exactly.
If at all.
Okay, so I didn't even tell you what the craziest part was. I had this guitar in the summer, so we had plenty of humidity here in Philly. It gets very humid here.
Okay.
I remove the fretboard, which, like I said, it was coming off, like probably a third of the way it had already come off, but it matched up perfectly. As soon as I removed the fretboard from the neck, the fretboard shrank or the neck grew because as I put it up against it, the fretboard was too small.
Question number 2, Chloe. What do you think is the greatest guitar? You've been exposed to a lot of guitars. Mm-hmm. Obviously. When you held this, you said, you know what? This has to be, not including your one of one, because you'd be biased. And I get it. But what would you say is possibly the best guitar in the market right now? The greatest guitar ever made. For the bang for the buck, I guess I should say.
For the buck.
Yeah.
Gosh. I mean, you say, like, I can't say that one because I'd be biased. Listen, I'm going to be biased no matter what.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I think that everyone has their... I mean, I've already mentioned, made in Japan Fender. I will say, for that being, like, at or around $1,000, like, those guitars in terms of quality control are just outstanding. And
great choice.
You ever see one lying around, grab it,
Absolutely.
I would say that my favorite line of guitars in terms of quality control.
Yeah. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear your opinion on.
On acoustic, it really is Taylor.
Oh, good to know.
Because I mean, they've really they've embraced technology. They are not trying to be Martin. They're not trying to embrace tradition because they'll never out Martin, and Martin knows that they'll never out Taylor, and they have a great mutual respect for one another. Mm-hmm. But Taylor is really embracing technology in their building, and that really helps them with quality control. They still have a great team of guitar builders, and they still have hands on those guitars, but they're choosy about when and where that takes place. And they make a very consistent product that is just always good every time. And anytime we saw a rack full of Taylors coming through, we knew it was going to be a good day. We knew it was going to be an easy day.
And I've always loved Taylor's preamp. I think they've got it down, and I wish more people followed that instead of the big ugly black box. with a
Yes.
stupid EQ and all that. It's nice, diminutive, three knobs just out of the way, blends into the body. Just beautiful design. And I bought my 714 from Sweetwater when Taylor came out with that new bracing that they're doing. And they
Yeah.
had this whole video. I'm like, what the heck is this? And they had a whole video
Because
on. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And it was just, wow, phenomenal guitar.
Yeah, in terms of quality control, they're gonna kill it every time. The way a Fender, or excuse me, a Taylor feels in your hands and sounds, that's obviously very subjective. And some people are gonna love the sound of a Martin every time, and or whatever brand you like. Gibson makes a wonderful acoustic as well. In fact, that's kind of in terms of mojo. I love a Gibson acoustic.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think in being as objective as possible, Taylor is so well, taken care of in terms of qualities.
And you're right, advancements in technology and constantly researching too, and not
Yeah,
just sitting on their laurels and kicking out reissues and trying to keep
exactly.
fresh. I mean, they're actually pushing the envelope, it seemed.
They are super pushing the envelope. You got it.
Yeah.
So in terms of electric, I would say that maybe I mean really all of the made in Japan stuff, but my favorite is like Pro Series Gretsch. I'm a huge Gretsch fan,
Nice.
and I've never played a Pro Series Gretsch that was a lemon. It just doesn't happen. They have this very precise quality control that feels like, okay, they really like crossed every T, dotted every I. So they kind of have that QC of Taylor, but they have the mojo, in my opinion, of a Gibson,
There you go.
where it still feels like I'm playing something really special that, the next one down the line isn't quite like this one. And I don't know, that may be the fumes coming out of the case of the nitrocellulose lacquer for all those years talking. But
And I've got a Gretsch that I'm trying to sell currently, and
okay.
it's a lady passed away and her husband left her with about 20 guitars. And, this is the lower price point Gretsch. But when I sat down and I recorded the video for Facebook Marketplace just to show that it was a functional guitar, I was like, God dang, maybe I might want to buy this because I'm a hollow body guy. I'm a jazz guy. And
Yeah.
damn, these pickups can rock, or they can get some serious mellow jazz tones that I really, really, oh, there you go.
So
Is that
here's
a
my Gretsch.
Malcolm Young? That's almost like a Malcolm Young.
It's not a Malcolm Young. It's kind of close though. It is a smaller body, and I love this body shape. This is actually a streamliner. This is below Electromatic.
Okay.
But I mean, the thing about being a guitar tech, this, you can take a mid-priced guitar and make it into your dream guitar if you want.
And that's what you did to that one there?
I think that's what I've done to most of my guitars. I
Okay,
haven't
yeah.
spent a ton of money on a lot of my instruments because I wanted variety, and I didn't want to spend an arm and a leg,
Right.
and I didn't have to. I didn't feel like so. Yeah, this was the first year that they did the Streamliner series.
Nice.
I've upgraded some cosmetic things too, just for fun. Like the knobs they did were plastic knobs, and
Yeah.
the toggle switch I upgraded, so they're metal like the Pro Series. I replaced the part of the Bigsby. I replaced the spring, and there's a guy in Alaska who makes what's called the Bricks Bigs Fix.
Okay.
And I don't know if I can get a good angle of it here, but basically, this part here, the bar that it goes underneath the strings feed through, is so low normally. It's all the way down here.
Yeah.
Get this arm out of the way.
Okay.
That it creates such a high break angle that you can't keep this in tune. It's not very usable. It gets out of tune really quick.
Interesting.
So he created this little device that
Yeah.
brings up this bar,
Oh, sweet.
so the break angle isn't as tense. And then
Is
I put a
it a
roller bridge on it.
Is it a
That helps too.
non-invasive add-on? No extra
It
screw
is.
holes or anything? Okay.
You don't have to drill any additional holes or anything. It goes in these original holes here, and it just sits up a little
sweet.
bit higher. Yeah,
Wow.
really cool. So now my Bigsby on here, even though this is a licensed Bigsby,
Yeah.
it feels like the real deal. It feels incredible.
And I love that low-profile Bigsby as opposed to the gigantic beast like this. 'Cause,
Sure.
man, the balance on this is way right-handed. I mean, it just
Yeah.
from all this metal out here,
Sure.
it's very topply, if you will.
It's
But yeah,
it's
Gretsch,
got that old
I'd have
Cadillac
to-
feel, They want all the chrome and all the pieces.
Yeah, and every time I pick it up, I want to do Brian Setzer licks. Mm-hmm. Stray Cats.
But yeah, I've got a couple of Gretsch guitars. This other one here I hadn't shown yet is also a
So,
Gretsch.
so that's your choice for a quality of electric guitar, Gretsch. Good choice.
Love Gretsch a lot. Yes,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Uh, Question number 3, Chloe. What's the one tool on your bench that you can't live without?
See, this is where I was going to talk about my dental tools, but gosh, what
Fair.
else do I
That's
have?
fair. I see a lot of Music Nomad. I see the Music Nomad neck rest. I see the Music Nomad wrench set.
So I am going to say that I am a huge Music Nomad fan and have
Yeah.
been since very early on for them.
Agreed. Agreed.
And I've met Rand and worked with him
Oh, cool.
at a Gearfest show or two
Oh,
when I worked at
nice.
Sweetwater, and just a super nice guy and really cares about his company.
Yeah.
Yeah, this wrench set. I mean, I keep it like most of my tools are in the drawers.
Sure.
But, you know,
Sure.
under here. But
Nice and clean bench there. It's
this,
very clean. I couldn't
thank
even
you.
tell that that was a bench. Honest to God, I thought. But now that I'm looking at it, yeah.
Yep. Yep. This is where everything happens. But yeah, this stays on the bench always. I mean,
I have
I'm
to
just
ask.
always gonna
I
use it.
have next time you talk to Rand, ask him why he scents his body polishing solution like bubble gum. Every time I use his spray, I'm like, dude, that is the grossest Hello Kitty bubble gummy smell. Yeah,
Is it?
I
Yeah.
love the way
Yeah.
it polishes like no other solution, but it's got like a bubble gummy.
It's very sugary.
Yes.
Like I can smell the
Why?
sugar. Yeah.
Why do they feel like doing that? I don't understand.
I think that he actually has, if I remember right, he has a background in like the car detailing world, which
Well,
makes a lot of
okay.
sense when you think about it.
Yeah. Well, then he should make pine scented and cedar and all these other wonderful smells
Yeah.
that we can choose from.
So I don't know if that really answers the mystery for you of why he chose that scent, but you know, I'm sure he had been thinking about scents in that world too.
Yeah.
And yeah, why
Makes
we got sugary bubblegum, I don't know.
Yeah. But I have to say, their fret guards are my favorite. No other company makes them with the handle, and I'm telling you, it's essential. I don't know how many times I've had to, because you're polishing frets, and suddenly the metal just starts wearing away because you're polishing the metal too.
Got those too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Jumbo
They're great.
size.
They're so good.
Yeah, awesome. Can't live without those. If you had to pick between vintage guitars and modern guitars, what do you gravitate towards? You're online checking out like what's cool in the, you know what I mean? Oh, look at that Les Paul, or oh, check out that newest Kramer or whatever. What would you say you gravitate more towards, vintage or modern?
Sure. I bet
Because
you
you're
could
an
already
Aerodyne,
answer.
you love the Gretsch, but you've got an Aerodyne, you know what I mean? So there's a mix there.
Yeah, that's true. I guess the Aerodyne I did get a little less traditional because I wanted a PJ. I wanted something that gave me the option. So I think mostly with guitars, though, I definitely am looking towards vintage.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm not the most technical player. It's kind of like when you see somebody driving a Lamborghini
Right.
as their like just everyday putzing around town car.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
why would you own that? It's not gonna ever perform the way it's supposed to,
That's
with
right.
you just doing that. And I'm like, I don't need the Lamborghini of guitars to do what
Right.
I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want something with the right mojo that feels like a tool for me making my art. And
Makes sense.
vintage is always kind of, I'll take something that's got some funny quirks to it and have a relationship with the guitar through those quirks before I'll say, oh, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be built for speed.
That's a good way to look at it. You if you have, like, I have some guitars that I love that have little quirks, but I live with the quirks. Like I have an Epiphone Brooklyn, and it's a hollow body. It's the Joe Pass hollow body, but then they took the toggle switch and they moved it down. The Joe Pass model had it up top where the Les Paul would be, but then they took this version and moved it down onto the horn, the cutaway.
Okay, yeah.
And my hand is always hitting that damn toggle switch and flicking it onto the bridge position. But I live with it, and now I've worked around it. So there are guitars. It's like, you just work around it. You work around
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Well, my first one here is
Yeah.
she's the queen of.
There
Her
you
name's
go.
Wendy, by the way. She is the queen of quirks.
What's her
This
name? What's her name?
Wendy, Wendy.
Wendy. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
And first of all, this paint. I did not realize that car paint is heavy. This is a heavy Strat.
Wow.
And also, it's not meant to be touched over and over again. So you can see the back of the neck here.
Man.
You can feel this.
Wow.
You can feel it on your hand as you're sliding.
Wow.
If there was a fire and I could only take one guitar out, I wouldn't take my one of one. I'd take this one. This is my
Whoa.
real one of one.
All right, Wendy. That's high praise.
Yeah, I don't care. I love the quirks. There's
Yeah.
nothing like this guitar. I could get that MJT if I wanted to again.
Yeah.
This would be incredibly difficult to replicate. So I love the quirks.
My one of my Japanese Strat that I was telling you about, it's an '86, and they were doing reissue of the vintage Strats from the '60s. That was kind of the thing they were doing that year. And my brother hated it. He was a Les Paul guy, and he's like, just have it. I can't deal with Strats. They're not heavy enough for me. I'm like, dude, some of the greatest heavy metal bands have. And I tried to convince him. I mean, Murray from Iron Maiden,
Sure.
or Richie Black.
Yep.
Anyway, the debate continues today. Les Pauls are heavier, Strats are heavy, whatever. But it was a 21 fret, and
Okay.
I didn't realize it until I was teaching myself the solo to Money by Pink Floyd. And he does this high B bend, and he's got a 24 fret Strat, right?
Okay.
And he hits that B bend, and I was like, oh shit. So I have to work around that now. But then I would bet, and this is before I knew about tech and what to do, and YouTube didn't exist, so I didn't know where to find a solution. And every time I'd bend up on this one note up in the, like from the 12 to the 15th in the E box, and I'd bend up and the note would die out. And I was like, what the heck is happening here?
Yeah.
And took it to whatever reputable guitar company tech guy. And I'm like, when I bend it up, I'm like, and he's like, can you demonstrate the bend that you're doing? And I'm like, and it was like a step and a half bend. He's like, you shouldn't be bending that high. I said, what? You shouldn't be telling me where I'm going to bend on my guitar.
Yeah,
Really? Is
don't
that
tell
is that
me where
your
to bend.
approach? Yeah. And then, so he's like, all right, I'll take care of it. Stupid me, $50 later or whatever it was, back in, I think it was 87 or 88. And took it home, and it was still doing it. And I'm like, I'm not going to take this back to this guy. Obviously, he doesn't know what he's doing. Suddenly, I start learning about guitar tech, and I'm like, I'm tired of having to deal with this little quirk with my Strat. I want to play it and do the bending I want to do. And finally realized that the neck needed shimming because it was so back that it would hit those higher frets. And no amount of filing down the frets or any of that. The saddles were as, you know what I mean? And eventually it was just a matter of a shim. And I'm like, thank God. And now it's the unquirkiest guitar I have. And it's kind of my go-to when I want to rock.
Ah, that's great. Yeah, next set is one of those things that is kind of invisible to a lot of people until you really know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
You can just get frustrated like you did with the guitar for years, not understanding how next set works.
Right. And geez, how long did it take before I learned how to intonate a guitar? And I was like, as a kid, I'm like, well, I'm never going to play the G chord because it just sounds like shit on this guitar. And I didn't realize it was because I didn't know how to intonate a guitar.
Sure.
You know? And then it's like, all right, I'll just play G bar chord and get away with it. But an open G just sounded phenomenally lame. And I just passed it off as this guitar sucks. But, that wasn't the Strat, by the way. That was a Sears Les Paul, probably K, made in Korea, 1980, piece of garbage. That was my first electric. But you just deal with it. So what's the most common mistake that you think guitar players make with their instruments when they come in? And they're like, I've fudged with this and blah, da, 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 da. And you end up having to correct what they've tried to do from a YouTube video. Or what's the most common one? The one that I find is adjusting their truss rod. And it's like, dude, I can't believe you went this far with it. And, and I started getting scared, so I'm coming to you. Well, thank you.
Yeah, two things come to my mind. One is putting a wildly different gauge of strings on the guitar without trying to make any adjustments to it. You're
Ay,
just
ay, ay.
like, well, yeah, I mean, I just joined this band that's playing like deathcore and we got it tuned down to drop C.
Yeah.
And so I just put these thicker strings on and it doesn't play good anymore. And I'm like, yeah, like, no shit,
Yeah.
man. Like,
Yeah.
of course it doesn't play good.
Yeah. And there's a trick to drop C that I found out recently because I just fell into that rut the other day with a client, just like you're talking about. And give the neck a little bit of relief. You're allowed to do that on drop C because a straight neck isn't going to play drop C. No.
It's too thick of a string,
Yeah.
usually, and yeah, it needs more room to vibrate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So that is very common, and then of course, people seeing feeling that their output jack is loose and just trying to like screw it in with their fingers, until the wires snap inside because it's twisted too many
Right.
times, and now
Yeah.
they have to pay me
Yeah.
more money
Yeah.
to resolder than to just tighten their output jack for them, which
Yeah.
I do for free in a setup.
And toggle
Um,
switches. Every time I do this, and I do it more just to get the pickup to engage, and I'm like
uh-huh.
moving it side to side, and I'm like, well, now you need a new toggle switch. I can't
Sure.
bend that back into shape for you. Interesting. Interesting. I found a trick, and I want to share it with you, Chloe. And I'm not sure if you've heard this or not. A guy on YouTube said you're not setting up a fender properly or a bolt-on neck. I'll say bolt-on neck guitar until you do this. When it's under string tension, take the back plate and loosen it. Give it a loosen on all the screws that you can. Sometimes 3, sometimes 4, sometimes 5, and just loosen them until you feel that, and that string tension pulls the neck into the pocket tighter, and then tighten it back up again. And he said, it's interesting because he said when the factory's doing it, they put on the neck, screw it on, and the strings are down at the other end, at the end of the line,
Sure.
right? So it makes sense. And he said, and that's when that neck pocket engagement with the neck resonates. It also could help with intonation. If you can't intonate that low E on that Fender Stratocaster because that saddle's all the way back, right? If you've done this adjustment, you're probably giving yourself a couple extra millimeters and a truer wood connect. Isn't that interesting?
That is very interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I'll
Yeah, I'm
tell you
gonna try
what,
that.
don't tell your clients that you're doing it because they'll freak the F out.
Oh
You
yeah,
go,
no,
oh, what? You're taking my guitar apart? I just wanted it for a setup. Just don't tell them that part.
they don't know. They don't want to know how the sausage is made always.
That's right.
Sometimes I choose to tell them, and sometimes I don't. And sometimes it depends on the person.
Good
I
point.
can tell that they fully trust me, and
Yeah.
sometimes I can tell they're very nervous in general. And yeah, it just depends. But yeah, that's a tricky one. Thank you for that, though.
It's interesting, and I did it on my Strat first, and I was like, all right, well,
Okay.
I've had this guitar for a long time, so I don't know if it's actually doing anything, but you can feel it, engage. It's like chunk. I mean, you can literally hear it once you undo that
Interesting.
last screw. Just a few turns, just to give it loose. It's real interesting. What's the most underrated piece of guitar gear? That's an interesting question. Underrated piece of guitar gear. Like if you have someone's like, look, I'm going to go out and buy a new guitar. You probably get customers like, this is my first guitar, and it's a beautiful, $2,000 Stratocaster, and you're like, wow, you're doing it right for someone who doesn't know how to play yet or whatever. What would
Sure.
you suggest to them as a piece of essential guitar gear that besides, that would help them? That's probably a tough question now that I'm asking it.
It is a tough question. I mean, I've worked in sales before, so I've definitely had that question presented to me.
Okay. Because you've seen people buy guitars and then all these extra other items with the guitar too, right?
Sure, of course. So, here's what I'll say. Actually, I think I have a pretty good answer to this. When somebody comes in as like a new-ish guitarist, right? They're like in a store properly buying a rig for the first time. They spend a lot of time on the guitar because that's a very emotional purchase, and it's got to fit right. They got to have the right color and the right shape and everything, and a lot of times they don't have the same amount of thought into what they're plugging into. And I've seen a lot of times where they want to put 70% of their budget into the guitar and not very much budget into the amp. And but then they go over to like the pedal cabinet and they're like, oh, what do all these do?
Yeah.
And some people are like so intimidated by that, and other people are so intrigued by it they want to start buying pedals immediately.
Yeah.
I think that either approach is not great. There are issues with either feeling. I would always try to set somebody up with a little like modeling amp that's like a decent size that has some built-in effects. And I think that in terms of helping me with my tone and finding my sound, having like the first time I got a modeling amp, which it was a Roland Cube, if you remember those.
Oh yeah, they're great. They made great jazz amps.
They're great amps for almost anything, to be
That's
honest.
right.
In terms of modeling amps at the time, they were probably the best sounding ones.
Wow.
And I had mine for years. And before I knew, like, well, what is a chorus? What is a flanger? What's delay and reverb? And how can I use these tools? By the time I was ready to put together an actual pedal board, I already knew what I wanted. I already knew the types of reverb that I liked. I already knew the types of delay that I liked, the types of distortion or overdrive that I liked. And I think that using that amp, not as your be-all, end-all source of the greatest tone you're ever going to have in your life, but to teach you the families of different effects that you can have and kind of like where to go next and how to grow into that pedal board, that next step, is really, really helpful. So I would tell somebody to get a modeling amp that's not so crazy deep divey that you can't understand it, but one that will help you where you can like turn some knobs ideally and just like listen to the changes in sound and be like, oh my gosh, chorus, this sounds like when I listened to The Cure, you know? And okay, that's how they got that sound. I get it now. I want to sound like that. I will buy a chorus pedal. I think that's super
Chloe, that's a fantastic answer. That is a fantastic. It's lead me to ask, what effects pedals do you prefer and have, and what are you playing your guitars through as an amplifier?
Yeah. So I've got over here my pedal board that's got the Boss Space Echo is probably one of my favorites. It's the reissue, the RC or the RE2 or something like that. I can't remember. It's been a while.
Okay.
But it's essentially it's like the bigger one, and it's got the whole, you know, all of the controls that the original had and more. So neat. I like a tape echo sound. I don't want a big like pristine digital delay. I want it to be as nasty and aged as possible. Yeah. And I want like a kind of a springy reverb, which it has in it as well. So
cool, very cool.
That's like my always on pedal, just about.
Good choice.
My drives are pretty limited. I've got the Westwood from Earthquaker.
Okay.
It's a very transparent overdrive. It's just like more of what you already have. And the reason I like that is because I get a lot of my overdrive from my amp. And my amp is a Black Star HT Club 40 Mark II.
Good choice.
This is one of my favorite amps ever. I mean, could I spend like 3 or 4 times the price and get like a better made version from like Mesa Boogie or something?
Sure.
You know, that has all the same bells and whistles? I sure could. But once again, I'm kind of a budget person. I'm a drummer as well. I'm a recording engineer as well. And you know, and I've got bills to pay, so I can't I can't spring $4,000 for a boogie, but I could spring for this. And I've had it since 2017 or so.
Wow.
The different gain staging that it has is so good. It's got like a perfectly pristine Fender clean. It's got kind of this voxy bluesy breakup.
Nice.
It's got kind of a classic Marshall, and it's got like a high gain, more modern Marshall, even like triple rec kind of situation, and it's all tube driven, you know.
Nice, very nice.
And I just love like those tones, but sometimes I need more gain on the front end. So that's what that Westwood does, is it just gives me more oomph like getting into, navigating headroom basically
Sure.
is what that's for. So yeah.
Are you scouting out possible bands that you can get in with in the Philadelphia area? Have you tested the waters yet?
Sure. So I'm currently drumming in a band, and
Okay.
that's taking up a lot of my extra bandwidth. But yeah, of course I want to get in and play guitar in a group.
Sure.
I haven't done that in a long time, but I don't want to take on too much at once. But yeah, it's definitely like I have a rig ready to go. I can gig tomorrow if I want, and that
Awesome.
just comes from years of working in music stores and getting gear for cheap, and the perks of the job, I guess. So
I have to ask, is the Sweetwater discount a good discount for employees?
it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Better than even the regular discount was the accommodations from certain vendors. So like
Sure.
certain brands really want you as an employee who sells their gear to buy their gear, so you can be like, this is really good and you should buy it too, Mr. Customer. And so I'll just tell you, because I don't think anyone can get me for it now. I think that this amp is $1,000 new now. I got it for less than $300.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Phenomenal.
So
Holy cats.
so pretty good.
Did
Yeah.
you ever get a
Yeah.
chance to go to NAMM?
I have been to NAMM a few times. I went
Okay.
to one summer NAMM in Nashville and a couple of winter NAMMs. Never with Sweetwater, but once with Ernie Williamson Music when I worked there, and then twice with the Music People when I worked for them.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So and then okay, so now we're talking about effect pedals and amps and gear and finding your sound
Sure.
as a beginner, like emulating. Oh, gee, that's what the Cure sounded like with Chorus. That's what I'm
Yeah.
hearing. That's where I want to go. If you could work on any famous guitarist's rig, past or present, who would it be?
Yeah. Gosh.
Isn't that a cool question? Because
It's
I
a
answer it different every time I ask myself.
Sure. It's a super fun question to think about. I think that I go to some of my guitar heroes, and if I had to give you like my top three guitar heroes, I don't know if this is a question or not, but
Shoot.
it's probably Tom Morello
Oh, nice.
from Rage and Audio
Yeah,
Slave and all
yeah,
that.
yeah.
It's Jack White from of course White Stripes and then his solo stuff. But my favorite stuff he did was with the Rack on Tours, and
Yeah.
he is probably the reason I'm such a Gretsch nerd, because he was playing
Haha.
Gretsch with the Rack on Tours, and I loved the tones he was getting with that band.
I
So
like what he did with that Fender Telly. My God, that is the
oh my
ugliest
gosh,
freaking.
the
It's
stuff.
I don't know anybody that would buy it for a practical reason. It just does so many things.
Yeah, and he uses them though.
He does. He does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But will anyone else? Yeah,
No, I don't think anyone would.
and somehow not sound like him in the
No.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who's
yeah.
your
The stuff
third?
he's doing
Who's
with
the third guy?
Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
the best, like just straight up like rock and roll tone. His like Les Paul Jr.
Yeah.
collection is,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've like heard about like how many, I think he sold off some now, but
Oh
he
wow.
was collecting Les Paul Jr.'s like nobody's business in like the 2000s and into 2010s.
And I'll bet his guitar tech loves him because that's the easiest guitar to work on.
Yeah,
There's no
yeah,
intonation. It's just a stop tail piece. One pickup, sometimes two. It's
yeah.
got to be the easiest.
It's I mean, they're still touring stadiums. Like I've watched his rig rundown, and they've
Yeah,
got I mean, he's got a lot of Marshalls, and
sure.
then he's got like a tube screamer in the rack, and
Okay.
he's not hitting any pedals on stage, so the tech
Right.
is kind of doing that work. But it is like he is having like two tones. Most of the fancy stuff, Jason White, the other guitar player
Okay.
who tours with them,
Yeah.
he handles all of that. Like he handles
Okay.
any big effects. But gosh, just his like basic tone just is so perfect. It's
Yeah.
perfect.
It kind of reminds me of Angus Young. I remember reading
Sure.
Guitar Player magazine had a rig rundown diagram of all these great guitarists. And of course, I'm a huge Hendrix fan, so I'm like, ooh, the Fuzz
Yeah.
Face and the Crybaby and Marshall Stack. And then it got to Angus Young and it was SG Marshall Stack. That's it. And it's like, wow, that's just as pure as you can get.
Yeah. Yeah. So of those three, I don't know, maybe Jack's, but
Okay.
I know the thing is, like, Jack and Tom are both so involved in their setup, you know? If I
Right.
teched for them, I mean, yeah, I'd make sure his guitar was playing well, but also, like, Jack White played the cheapest guitars in the worst condition in the White Stripes for years. And,
That's right.
you know, if I did a terrible job with his setup, he wouldn't even
Would he be able
care.
to tell? That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
So
that's right.
I don't even know if that's like a great answer to that specific question, but gosh, to be able to like work on his rig would be a blast, of course.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I'll answer with that.
And there are 2 rig rundowns I've seen on YouTube, and it's 2 of my heroes. And I really feel sorry for their techs because these guys, I hope they get paid accordingly. But one of them is Brian May. And
Okay.
making Brian May's guitar, you know, his original guitar work
Yeah.
like it does, his rig rundown is insane. All the things that they have that guitar going through.
Gosh, I haven't
And
seen that one. I need to.
oh, it's phenomenal. The guy and his tech is such a humble, cool dude. But
Cool.
then the other one is one of my biggest heroes is Pat Metheny.
Oh,
And,
sure. I
and
have
his,
seen that one, I think.
yeah, and his rig rundown is like, what? What is this guy? How does this guy wrap his head around all the stuff he has to do?
Yeah.
And then you see Pat Metheny's got like an old. They're like, what's this thing sticking out of his guitar there? His
An
Ibanez.
old Roland synth or something, isn't it?
Yeah, well, there's a Roland synth version, but then his hollow body Ibanez has a toothbrush stuck in it. Yeah, and he's explained. I don't remember exactly what it is, but you're like, and if that toothbrush isn't just right, and you're like,
Oh my
what?
gosh.
You have to think about that. It's so
Wow.
funny. So funny. So, what's the best advice you could give someone starting out as a guitar tech?
Starting out as a guitar tech.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And you know, and I can say the one thing I would tell them not to do, and this is me, use YouTube wisely because man, you find 5 different methods to do one repair, and you don't
Sure
know
do.
which one is really the correct one. Just because it worked for that guy doesn't make it the right way to do it.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
that
very
would be,
true.
that'd be my advice.
And I think that, you know, I mean, if you haven't, as a guitar tech, beginning or non, I do recommend watching. You know, we talked about StuMac earlier. All of
Dan Earlywine.
Dan Earlywine, all of his videos. I mean, they're like ASMR for guitar techs. And yeah, like all the tools that he's invented that StuMac now sells. Incredible. He's one of the greatest guitar techs to have ever done, or luthier, I should say, really. But
You're right. He's elevated to the status of luthier because
yes,
you and I are luthiers by trade, but for some reason, every time I throw that word out there, it just doesn't feel right. Like, am I really a luthier? Because there's these dudes like Dan Earlywine that's a luthier.
yes,
It's like saying Luke Skywalker in Star Wars was a Jedi. No, he's really doing the Jedi things, but is he Obi-Wan Kenobi? No.
sure, absolutely. My thing with watching Dan or watching StuMac videos is StuMac is making those videos to educate, but they're also doing it to sell all of their gadgets and gizmos.
Well, that's true.
And so my advice to a beginner is don't think that you need to go out and buy every single gadget or gizmo to get the job done.
That's a great piece of advice.
I have such a minimal roster of tools in my bench because I started doing this full time in the spring and I've really expanded upon the types of repairs I'm doing, and I'm trying to turn a profit today.
Right.
And if I'm buying a new gadget for every job I'm doing, then I'll never turn a profit. And so the other thing that's great for is I learn so much by figuring out how to do it with the tools I have. You know, I'm making nuts from bone blanks with like a hand Dremel tool primarily to like shape my nut, you know.
Right.
And that's like if you go on to, you know, StuMac's YouTube and look at all of their gadgets that they use to like make a nut from scratch, then you know they're great tools. I would love to own all of them.
Yeah.
But you don't need to.
That's right.
Yet you can work your way up to that, and when you're getting the kind of client coming through your door and you can't keep clients out of your door, that's when it's time to invest and get some more fancy stuff, because then that's quality of life stuff. That's stuff that's going to save you time, help you get to those other clients and not have to turn people away. I'm not turning people away for being too busy just yet.
Yeah.
So I think that getting a good foundation of tools, but not having to go tool crazy out of the gate, that's my advice.
That's a great piece of advice because I fell into that trap easily. And I think I have three different wrenches or systems just for tightening input jacks.
Sure.
There's
Yeah.
like so many on the market, and you're right, so many different nut gizmos, and some luthier will think up a little clever idea. What tool is on your shopping list? Which one are you window shopping for? And you're like, you know what? That's the next one I'm going to get because I have one, and I'm bummed that it's sold out. But it's Doug Proper. You know Doug Proper?
I don't actually.
Look up Doug Proper if you can.
Okay.
Are you a member of the Luth Group?
No.
Go to theluthgroup.com. It's a
Okay.
Patreon site, and they have the Council of Elders, and they have videos constantly. I interviewed Ian Davlin last year for this podcast, and he's the guy who started the Luth Group out of his home, and he runs it today. There are several, I would nearly say almost 1,000 luthiers around the world, and they have a thing called a Luthathon, where they turn on their camera in the background and just start working on their bench, and people pipe up. You can log in and go, hey guys, I've got this weird problem, and you'll get three different responses. And they've got Dan Earlywine's here. He's on there all the time. But Doug Proper developed a relief gauge, digital relief gauge, the bar with the relief gauge on there. His has these little feet that balance, because I don't know how many times I've gotten the digital relief gauge on the neck and I just rock it a little bit and the digital is off all of a sudden. Well, he's created he's got the most, and it's sold out. You can't get it. And the Luth Group is just, and they've got it on there, but that's my next tool. What would yours be?
Okay. Gosh, I really need some tools to be able to do some more in-depth fret work. So like being able to have like a fret press
Oh, nice.
to do a refret would be great, and some more files. You can
Oh,
never have
yeah.
enough files.
Never have enough files.
So those are probably on my shopping list. Actually, there's something that I almost bought the other day, and I decided to hold off, but it was the mini belt sander.
Oh, cool.
I found one that's actually, it wasn't too expensive, and it had it had a miniature buffing wheel on it as well.
Oh,
It
neat.
was like the same motor turns the belt and the little buffing wheel.
Oh,
And
cool.
gosh, I could really use that.
Interesting.
Especially for, like I was just saying, making a nut from a bone blank, like being able to just like really quickly, polish that up on a buffing wheel instead of taking it through all my micro mesh by hand.
Yeah,
We're talking, 15 minutes or 15 seconds.
that's right.
Yeah,
Good point.
I would love that. So
Huh. Okay,
that'll be
that's
in the
on your
future.
wish list. Okay. Let's see. Music or no music while you're working?
Super depends on what the work is.
Me too.
When I'm really concentrating, I gotta turn the music off. It's like when
Yeah.
you get close to your destination in the car
Yeah.
and you've got to turn the radio down so you know
Yeah.
where to park.
Yeah.
I feel like that sometimes when I'm working. Overall, I love listening to music when I can. When I'm just like, cleaning up a fretboard or
Sure.
just doing like a general setup. Unless I'm like intonating,
All right.
then I'm gonna turn music off.
Yeah.
But up until, or I guess testing electronics really quick, I might
Sure.
if I feel like there's something that's giving me any trouble. But yeah, when I can coast, when I can like I've done this a billion times, I'm gonna
Yeah.
have music on probably.
Absolutely agree with you on that. All right, question number 10, Chloe.
Okay.
This is the one I ask everybody. Techs, builders, collectors, players, they all get the same question at the end. And last year, I actually made a Spotify playlist with everybody's answers from my previous year's episodes. And the question is, you're stranded on a desert island. You've got a mixtape that has your three favorite guitar songs on it. What three songs would you pick for your desert island mixtape?
Yeah.
And some
gosh.
people get real literal, like, oh God, if I'm on an island and I have to listen to the song over and over. That's not really what that means. What it
Sure.
really, it's just kind of a creative way of saying, pick your three favorite guitar tunes.
Of course, of course. Okay. You mentioned David Gilmour earlier. I'm a huge, huge, huge David Gilmour fan. My favorite Floyd song is Dogs
Oh, great
from
choice.
Animals.
Great
And
choice.
his lead licks on that are just, they give me chills. I have
Yeah.
chills thinking about them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the hair
So
just stood up on my neck a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Phenomenal recording.
So good. The way like the vocals actually fade out and they kind of have that echo that repeats, and then it
Yeah.
comes back 2 songs later in the record,
Yeah.
like it never left. Oh,
Yeah. And you can hear a guy like you can hear dogs barking in the background and you
yes.
can just
Oh
get
my gosh.
lost in that whole album, but Dogs really does stand out.
Dogs is the standout for me on that record, and it's a great record, so that's saying something. Now, if I am being literal about it, though, which I did think of, I have to say, it is
Okay.
a 17-minute song, and so you do get some good like bang for your buck in
Okay.
that one too. You know,
That's true.
yeah, I will admit I am one of those people who will take it literally.
Yeah. That's okay. That's okay.
But yeah, so that's an easy one. That kind of gets me my like classic rock, like very bendy, phrasing, all of that really gets that out of the way. And then, I do have to kind of give nods to some of my guitar heroes that I mentioned earlier. So I would probably say for just like I said, that like quintessential rhythm playing, I would have to choose like a Green Day song, and I would pick Jesus of Suburbia off of American Idiot.
Nice.
That song is also a longer one. It's like about 9 or so minutes,
For
and
them, that was
it
a huge breakout too. It's like, wow, is this Green Day doing a 9 minute tune? Really?
yeah, it was like a rock opera,
Yeah. Great album.
and it goes so many places,
Yeah.
and it just has such great rhythm tone on it, and but great lead licks as well. So I mean, it's got a little bit of everything in it. They go to like some like heavier, more intense places. They go to some kind of like poppier, kind of dancey places in it, and
Sure,
it's
sure.
just so fun.
Does Billy Joe Armstrong do all the guitar parts in the studio, unlike on stage where he has another guy?
I think he does. I think he
Okay.
does just about everything in the studio, and
Okay.
I'm not gonna say Jason has never recorded some guitars with them. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure because it's been the same guy, Jason White, with them for decades now.
Okay.
He's probably contributed in the studio, but any like footage that I've watched has had Billy like laying down the lead parts
Cool.
and all of it. So yeah,
Cool. Cool.
yeah.
Because when Kurt Cobain started getting Pat Smear on stage, I mean,
Hmm.
I'm a huge Pat Smear fan from the punk days,
Yeah,
and that was cool to see him on stage. But I'm like, is he in the recordings too, or is it just Kurt doing all this stuff? I didn't ever know.
yeah. I'm not sure if Pat ever did anything in the studio. I can't remember.
Okay.
You'd think all the stuff I've watched with him, like Sound City, if you've watched that movie,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, you'd think that would have come up at some point, but
Yeah.
maybe not.
Did
I
you get
haven't watched
any?
a lot of. Go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I haven't watched a lot of stuff on the making of In Utero, and I feel like if there was an album that he would have contributed to, it would have been that one. But
Sure.
yeah.
In the last stages and all that. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. Did you, it's funny, we're talking about, visiting factories and stuff. I recently did a trip to Nashville and I went to the Gibson garage.
Yeah.
Have you been?
I went when it like I think when it first opened. I happened to
Cool.
be there for Summer NAMM. It was in like
Oh, cool.
2021 or so. Yeah,
Oh, very cool.
very
And
cool
and
place.
and it blew me away that the thankfully, because there's the sales reps and they're sitting behind the counter, and it's kind of like a fancy car dealership. Because, and
Hmm.
I'm not sure if it was that way when it first opened, but it was this time in 2025.
Okay.
And they're hanging out and they're on their phones. They're just waiting for someone to make a purchase. And then there's
Yeah.
a bunch of people doing the on the floor stuff, engaging with the
Hmm.
customers. And this woman walks up to me and she's like, "Hey, can I interest you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just drooling. This is awesome." I'm looking at the ES-335s just going,
Hmm.
"Oh, I want
Hmm.
to touch this so bad." And she, "Go ahead." I mean, "No, I don't really want to touch it. I just want, no, really, if you want to play it." I didn't.
Sure.
But she said, and I said, I just saw a video of Jason Momoa live on stage here. You guys have a stage? She's like, yeah, there's a little stage here, and we do some. And she said, there's a vault in the back that has all that a lot of the pros put up, like Bonamassa has got like a bunch of his Les Pauls hanging out in this vault, humidified, controlled. They'll shoot you if you even touch the
Yeah.
padlock. And I said, "Oh, can you show people?" "No, we're not allowed to." Ah, man. So, and that leads me to Momoa showing up out of the blue. And I just recently, that trip to LA, I took the journey out to Tarzana and visited Norman's Rare Guitars. And
Oh,
'cause I had
wow.
to, yeah, and the dude keeps banker hours. He's closed Monday through Wednesday, but he opens on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and Sunday. And so I had to wait until Thursday, or Friday, and I drove up there, and
Hmm.
there was Norman, and I got a selfie with him and drooled over the guitars. A lot of
Sure.
untouchable guitars, but you know that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday are the days where Momoa can show up and try out the Les Pauls.
Of
Or
course. Yeah.
did Sweetwater have days like that where it's like, guess who's coming in today? Holy shit! Blah 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 blah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, the difference is Sweetwater, they're open every day. So, you could kind of just be there as a guest one day, as a regular person shopping around, touring the place, and you might see somebody pretty big, like
Yeah.
I saw people all the time. Saw Eric Johnson a couple times, of
Uh,
course.
I
Nita
just saw Eric
Strauss.
Johnson last week. He played here in Charlotte.
Cool. Okay.
I'm a huge Eric Johnson fan. I saw
Yeah.
him in '89 in a little club in Lubbock, Texas, when I was going to school there, and phenomenal show then. Just off
Hmm.
of Austin City Limits, people were starting to get to know him, and then his new tour is like wow. I mean, he does a whole 5 or 6 acoustic tunes at the beginning of
Oh,
the set,
wow. That's
just
cool.
mind blowing. Oh, so good, yeah.
Yeah. I bet that was great.
And he's hanging out at Sweetwater.
Yeah, yeah, couple times. I mean, when you were in the sales department there, your my morning meetings, like a sales meeting, where you're just getting shown new product and you're getting updated on all the latest stuff. It's like twice a week you have those meetings there.
Oh,
I've had meetings that were led by Winger,
oh wow, Kip Winger,
like the whole band,
the whole
including
band.
Kip. Yes.
Okay, wow.
They showed off the new Bose F1 system when it came out.
Oh, cool.
And Paul Gilbert is one of my favorite like
Oh,
80 shredders. Yeah,
yeah.
I had a morning meeting with him like leading it. So, he just
Okay,
like they just put on a concert and they're like, "Look at how cool this gear sounds." And we'll tell you a little
man.
bit about it, and it's pretty crazy. Even just working in the guitar gallery, doing my job, I would turn around and like Rudy Sarzo would be walking by, you know.
I was just talking to a customer of mine, brought a Rudy Sarzo PV bass in, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, dude, this is a Rudy Sarzo." He's like, "Who?" Well, let me tell you about Rudy Sarzo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I
yeah.
saw him play with Quiet Riot back in 1983 in LA, and they opened for ZZ Top at the LA Forum.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this is a guy that Randy Rhoads said, look, if I'm going to Ozzy, I'm bringing Rudy Sarzo with me. And
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
really? You played with Ozzy? Yeah, that's cool. Rudy Sarzo. Wow.
Yeah, so it's not easy to, or excuse me, it's not hard to be able to name drop if you worked
Yeah.
at Sweetwater for a while because they
Oh
do just
man.
show up there for sure. And I
Wow.
and I could keep going, but yeah, yeah.
Did you always feel sorry for the people selling saxophones and cellos and all those band instruments and stuff? Because Sweetwater does that too. I mean,
Well,
the guy who founded the company was a saxophone player or something,
mm-hmm.
trombone or whatever, and decided
Saxophonist, correct?
sax.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so do you feel sorry for them because how exciting is their
yeah. I mean, honestly, I will say they didn't start selling band instruments till after I left. That's a
really,
very recent thing for them.
really? Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
probably
Okay.
2021 or so when they
Oh
started
wow.
that. Now they acquired what happened was they acquired a local Chuck Surak, I should say, acquired a local B&O instrument place called MyNet Music, and
Okay.
he did that years ago. I'm not sure when he did it, but before I got there,
Huh.
and they were a much smaller company, and he kind of let them continue being a smaller, like community fed company. But I think he kind of used them as a way to tip his toes into that world and kind of try things, and then eventually it was time for them to move B&O to Sweetwater. So yeah, that didn't happen until after I left though. So everybody who was there when I was there kind of had some cool thing, some cool people to meet, right? But
Cool.
yeah, I get what you mean though. It's a lot less exciting, or maybe it is. Maybe they do get the best trumpet players of the day. I
Yeah.
wouldn't know who they are
Yeah,
today.
that's right. That's right. I could probably name two on my right hand.
Yeah.
But so your third track on the mixtape.
Oh, right. Okay. third and final one. Okay, so I'm gonna have to give it to Tom Morello, just because his guitar playing is so one of a kind, so innovative, so different sounding. I would have to choose a Rage track, and maybe Bomb track.
Nice.
It's the first song on the first record, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And it's so simple, the parts he's playing, but it works so well for this genre that nobody had been doing before, and it just gets me so pumped
Absolutely.
to this day. It's hard, you can't not get your heart rate going listening to that. And yeah,
Oh, great
I'd probably
choice.
give it to that.
Great choice. And I just recently saw Tom Morello was the music director of Black Sabbath and Ozzy's final show. That was really
Yeah.
cool. But
Yeah.
what's on his radar? Is he going to do solo stuff? I mean, Audio Slave and obviously with Chris Cornell passing,
Sure.
Rage's singer is really tough to work with and doesn't want to do a reunion. What's
Mm-hmm.
next on his radar? Makes you wonder as a guitar
Sure.
player of such unique style.
Yeah, yeah. I think about that a lot. I mean, he's done several solo projects. He did kind of an acoustic project in the 2000s, which you wouldn't have expected from him, where he
Wow.
sang. He has actually like this beautiful, very like low, rich voice. If you've never heard him sing, go listen.
Wow.
Called The Night Watchman.
Oh,
And so yeah, that's kind of like a totally different vibe, but it's kind of like not what I want when I want to listen to Tom Morello,
yeah.
because yeah, I'm like, where's your whammy pedal, man?
Yeah,
Like,
right. Where's
go,
the kill
yeah,
switch? And
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But
Huh.
I love that for its own in its own right. He has
Yeah.
done some solo career stuff that's more like Tom Morello, what you would expect, where
Okay.
he's released some albums where he just collabs with a lot of artists. Which is really fun, where he'll get like a different vocalist and different band or something. It's very like experimental. It's not like, no song sounds the same. I think it reminds
Cool.
me of when Slash was without a band, when Velvet
Yeah.
Revolver wasn't doing anything, and when
Yeah.
Guns hadn't reunited yet. He
Yeah.
did a solo record. And it was before he got like Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators too, and he was doing some solo records with them. But it
Okay.
was like his first one that he did. If you go listen to that record, it came out in like 2010.
Okay.
He had like different singers on every track, and he
Cool.
went all over the place. He
Cool.
might have had a track with Ozzy, if I remember right, but
Oh,
he had a song
wow.
with Fergie from the Black Eyed Peas on there.
Oh,
He
weird.
had like all kinds of different
All over the
people on
place.
there.
Wow.
And that's kind of what Tom Morello's done too, is kind of just like, he's felt the freedom to genre bend and go
That's
in
awesome.
places he wouldn't have before.
Good for him.
Yeah, yeah.
That reminded me of a buddy of mine said, I'm a Frusciante fan because I'm a Hendrix fan, and Frusciante really reminds me of Hendrix when he plays rhythms.
Yeah.
And a buddy of mine went, he's got some solo albums. Really? I went and looked him up on Spotify. Ugh, no, man,
Oh,
no, that's
not for
not
you.
Chili Peppers Frusciante. And
Got it.
he's singing, and it's like, but give him. I mean, I'm not going to poo-poo any musician, obviously, but
Sure.
it just doesn't hit the same as a Red Hot Chili
Yeah.
Pepper.
Didn't scratch the itch that you wanted it
No.
to. Fair
And I think
enough.
Morello on acoustic, I need to go check those out. I'm wondering if
Yeah.
his approach to the acoustic is it out there? Like, well, I never would have thought about playing it that way or
I mean, maybe at times, but not from
okay.
what I remember. I think
Oh.
that he really just like wanted to write some, kind of cool like protest songs, and
Oh, wow,
because he's
yeah.
always been about the message of his music, very
Absolutely.
much so, and I've loved
This
that.
guitar kills fascists.
Exactly, he is
Yeah.
all for that,
Yeah.
and wants to continue that. And,
Very important.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think you might hear some things here and there that he does, but if you think about it, the thing that he's talked about most, transitioning from Rage Against the Machine to Audio Slave, is in Rage he didn't play chord progressions. There was no point. There was no melody. So he was just playing like groovy pentatonic licks, and that was such fun stuff for me to like cut my teeth on as like a young guitar player, just like playing these cool riffs over and over again.
Absolutely.
But when he got to play with Chris Cornell, he was like, "Oh, I have this phenomenal vocalist now, and I can play some chord progressions." And I think he wanted to maybe scratch that itch in a different way doing this, where he's like, "Yeah, I want to play some chords. I want to, get out my acoustic and, just be a full guitar player.
Nice.
What everything that entails, I think he wanted to do.
Did you just tell me that there's a rig rundown of his on YouTube?
I'm sure there is.
Okay.
More, even cooler than that, there's a video of him kind of going through his pedals and like how he got his sound. Like his pedal board is crazy simple for what he accomplishes. He uses a Boss EQ pedal as a boost. He literally just takes every knob on the like graphic EQ and takes it all the way up, and he uses it as like a boost pedal.
Huh.
He does some super innovative things that you would just not think of. Yeah.
And it was probably born out of necessity and the budget that he was on when Rage first started.
Probably.
It's like this gets done and I like it. I mean, there's a video out there that just started cropping up. I don't know how long but it's Rage's first live concert in some park somewhere in California.
Okay.
And they sounded phenomenal then.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was probably just born out of necessity. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
this gives me the boost that I like. I've been here, doing this. And I wonder if he was playing traditional chording in Rage, that his pedals would have been different. Because you're right, he was more percussive, just adding to the bat. He was like almost like a scratcher. It's
It's exactly what he was trying to do. Because before Rage, he was actually playing with like other hip hop artists, and he was like playing with DJs, and he was in a lot of environments where like a drummer and a bassist were not backing him up.
Mm-hmm.
He was being super percussive and like trying to be the whole band in certain ways.
Oh, that's very cool. And I think that's why Jack White is such a fascinating guitarist too, because it was just him and what was her name on drums?
Meg White.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just born out. It's like listening to the Black Keys and going, good God, they're doing so much with just two.
Mm-hmm.
And that just, you have to be innovative at your approach to the instrument.
If you ever want to hear somebody preach about innovation through necessity, it's Jack White.
Yeah.
He, especially in the White Stripes, it was like an entire project kind of dedicated to just exploring the idea of a forced creativity. Like, I'm going to put a wall here and put a wall here and figure out how do I operate within these parameters. He would give himself, even when they had a budget to get whatever amount of studio time they wanted, he'd make them like cut the record in 3 days instead of 3 weeks,
Phenomenal.
And
raw. It's just raw.
He like never kept picks on his like mic stand up front. He would keep picks on his amp in the back of the stage. So every time he dropped a pick, he had to go get one from the back of the stage. Just like crazy things,
None of that fancy shit. Yeah.
But I kind of love it. I mean, I think you can maybe tell from talking to me, it's shaped my philosophy, saying like, you don't need to go out and get every tool, figure it out with what you have. Right. I think without even realizing it, I have taken those principles from my favorite guitar players and I've applied it to who I am as a guitar tech.
I can see that, Chloe. I can definitely see that. Chloe, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. Our time is the most valuable tool that we have, and the most valuable asset that we have as guitar repair techs, and I do appreciate you hanging out with me and chatting. It's been awesome.
Yeah, fully agree, Patrick. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for having me and giving a platform to a bunch of guitar techs and collectors, and giving a really cool source of entertainment for other nerds to listen to. And I can't wait to check out more episodes to come from you.
Take care, Chloe. Best to you.
Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.